Welcome to part 2 of my VIP visit with Peter Whitehead, Creative Director of the Walt Disney Hometown Museum. At the end of part 1, we were talking about Walt's younger sister, Ruth, whose personal collection is the foundation of the museum. Walt was born on December 5, 1901, and Ruth was born on December 6, 1903. And in what year did Ruth pass away?
She passed away in 95. So it's funny because she'd been collecting pieces and she'd put it in Kay's room in her home. And so when she passed away, Teddy literally called Kay and said, "You need to come and clean out your room." And so she showed up, and she came with just an empty suitcase because I don't think she was quite aware of how many pieces would be coming back to Marceline. So she was hoping that there'd be enough to maybe do a display in City Hall. And she came back with so many pieces that they had to rent a U-Haul truck and get a museum in Kansas City to come and help them go through them and mark everything. It was a pretty labor-intensive starting point.
Who knew that there was this whole story about his little sister, who most people have never even heard of or knew existed?
Yep.
I mean, it's, some of the stories you tell, it's obvious that she was kind of retiring or retiring in a relative sense. She liked her own life and did what she wanted to do, but it didn't have that much to do with the celebrity of being a very close relative of Walt Disney's.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know you mentioned the letters. One of the treasures that we have as Disney historians is the letters that Walt wrote Ruth every Christmas.
Yeah.
And he would reflect on the year that had just passed. Walt wasn't a guy that sat around talking a lot about, he was a doer. He wasn't sitting around reflecting on things, but in these letters he did. So quite the treasure. So besides the television, what are one or two other items?
The pieces that I traditionally talk about, obviously, the thing that, just because I'm a Mickey fan, I love Mickey. Mickey to me is Walt, so there's that parallel. But we have the gifts that Walt and Roy gave to their parents during their 50th anniversary, which are original Walt dolls. So those are the two pieces in our museum that almost assuredly, if one of our docents came in the morning and they were gone and I did not show up for work, those would be the pieces I would steal from our museum, and you would never see me again. I just love them. I could stare at them all day. So I love those pieces. We have the record of Walt interviewed his parents during the 50th anniversary. Walt made 3 recordings. Got one. Gave one to Roy. Gave one to his parents. His parents, when they passed away, gave it to Ruth, and Ruth gave it to the museum. So the only place that you'll be able to hear that recording of Walt interviewing his parents is in Marceline. So we had it digitized and we had it animated so you can watch it on a monitor, because it's sometimes hard to hear, but that's an amazing piece of history. And then I would say upstairs, the key piece, well, there's a couple of really fantastic pieces. One's on loan, one's in our museum permanently. But a gentleman by the name of Dale Varner, who's an artist, when he was a very young boy, lived just outside of Disneyland and started model making as a young boy. He had a bit of a heart problem and he didn't play sports. So he started to make Main Street as a model and sent pictures to Walt and said, "This is what I'm doing. Do you like it? Can you send me photos of other buildings so I can expand my model?" And Walt sent a letter saying, "Love what you're doing." And he followed up with the blueprints to the Magic Kingdom. So as a very young boy of 16, I'm guessing, or 18, he started from scratch and started to build not only Main Street, but much of Adventureland and some of Tomorrowland and Fantasyland, absolutely to scale. And in a time before Hobby Lobby, where you could just go in and buy supplies, he is making roof shingles. He is making lattice. It's amazing what he did. And it took him 40 years of his life. So in terms of a piece of real pop art, it's unbelievable. The detail, the love that he has for those pieces, it's unbelievable. I just love it. Again, it's the one thing upstairs that a lot of people not only obviously take photos of, but can spend a lot of time investigating, because everyone has a favorite part of the park. I'm sure you have a favorite part of the park. So it's pretty cool to go upstairs and find it
Yeah.
up in our museum and explore it, at eye level. It's pretty sweet. So
all those details. What a labor of love. My gosh.
yeah. And we also have a light table upstairs that, again, for real Disney fans, when Walt came back from the war, the very first job that he got as a paid artist was at a place called Pessman Rubin Commercial Art Studios. He wasn't there that long. It's the first place that he met Ub Iwerks, of course. So I'm madly in love with Ub. I think he's the most important Disney artist that there's ever been on the face of the earth. And they met each other for this very short period of time that they worked at Pessman Rubin before they went off and did Iwerks Disney Commercial Art Studios. And then, of course, they worked together at Kansas City Slide Company. They worked together at Laugh-O-Gram Studios. And then in 1923, when Laugh-O-Gram closed down and they all went off to California, when Walt started the studio there, one of the first calls, of course, was to Ub to join him in California. And the thing that we have upstairs that is on loan to us right now from the group, thank you, Walt Disney in Kansas City, is the light table that Walt shared with Ub Iwerks at Pessman Rubin. Mr. Pessman kept it in his personal collection his entire life, sold it once to a gentleman by the name of Dan Vietz. And he's given it to the museum until they figure out a new home for it in Kansas City. So I hope they never come up with a home for it, because I love it. It is our holy grail. If you're a Disney artist and you come to our museum, to touch a piece that Walt worked at, it doesn't get better than that.
It is amazing. That early period of Walt's life where he was still drawing himself and making art himself, he gave that up fairly soon, really, in the relative stretch of his career. So it's very rare. And then, of course, Ub's involvement, it's priceless. It's literally priceless.
It truly is. It truly is. I mean, from everything from Walt's grade 1 desk, that's in our Marceline gallery, identifiable because, well, we have a photo of Walt pointing at it, but he talked about how he carved his initials in the desk, and those really amazing tactile pieces that can't really be duplicated. If you're going to start a museum, we have all the seeds in place to have grown something pretty special here. So it's a lot of people get off the road and they're not sure what to expect. Is it going to be a roadside attraction? Is it going to be a place where I'm going to spend 10 minutes and be upset that I spent $10 for a ticket to get into the museum? I personally, in the 6 years that I've been at the museum, have never had someone leave the museum disappointed, which is a testament, obviously, to the hard work of the people that created this museum from day one, how it's grown, but obviously the power of the name Walt Disney. You don't have to be a Disney fan to understand how important he is and the role he played in shaping America in many ways, but the world in many ways. And I can't, as a Disney fan, I will tell you, Jim, I can't, and I hope I never will get over the fact that upstairs in my office, I can open up an archival piece and bring out a letter signed by Walt and touch it and hold it. It's enough to make you cry, weirdly. As a Disney fan,
yes.
How did I get here? How can I explore these pieces? How am I being given the opportunity to shape the stories in this museum? It's anybody's dream, I would think, as a Disney fan, to be able to do that, and the pieces we have are just unbelievable.
It's all priceless for anybody who appreciates who Walt Disney was and what he did, because I mean, and I'm not alone, of course, but I often describe him as the great showman, the great storyteller. Look at the amazing achievements over the course of his career. But unlike other people you might be able to say that about, there's nobody that put so much of himself and his heart into what he gave the world again, the idea of Main Street USA, that you have to go down it when you go to Disneyland or the Magic Kingdom or other places like it. He obviously wanted to share what was important to him. It wasn't just, oh, this will make a great movie or a great theme park and it'll make money. It's what he loved himself, and somehow he thought, well, I love it, so I'm going to share it with people and they'll love it too.
Yeah.
That's so unique. It's so unique. Certainly any other studio head of the golden age. I mean, you know, maybe Samuel Goldwyn did a little bit of that, but because he was an independent too.
Sure.
But most of them were not putting their own personal life or love into what they produced.
Yeah.
And I think I was certainly thinking about this when you were talking about the train going through Marceline. Certainly the Walt Disney movie, So Dear to My Heart, if people that won't be coming to Marceline want to experience a little bit of Walt's attitude or feeling for Marceline, it's definitely in that movie, which is a beautiful, heartfelt piece of sentiment. And I mean that in the best possible way. And you can see the children that are in that story out in the meadows and waiting for the train to go by and waving at the train and the train blowing its horn and all that. There's so much of Marceline in that fictional story that Walt connected with. Actually, that story itself was not entirely fictional, because the author is Sterling North. That was based on his own childhood. So it also has a lot of truth in it. But obviously Walt connected with that and made no secret about it. He said that So Dear to My Heart is the life that Roy and I lived in Marceline.
Yeah, I heard that, because apparently he cried at the screening and said exactly that is my childhood in Marceline. Because I think of that, when I think of Pollyanna, I think the same thing.
Yeah.
I know on the 50th anniversary of Lady and the Tramp, the DVD, there's, I think, 4 extra special features that talk about the importance of Marceline, even in Lady and the Tramp. So there's so many parallels. All these little moments in time as a young boy, what he experienced and obviously will never forget.
Yeah.
I talked to somebody about they're working on a documentary for Mickey Mouse right now for Disney Plus, and they filmed last year, I guess it was, in Marceline, or 2 years ago. And they were trying to talk about sort of the connections between Walt and Mickey. And the thing that I keep thinking about is, at that time and place, before Mickey was born, or as Mickey was being born, he had just lost Oswald. I mean, he had lost so much that whatever he did next had to be authentic and it had to work. So what was he going to draw from for stories? He was going to draw from reality. So a lot of those Mickey things, those very early Mickey shorts, you can easily draw parallels right back to Marceline, just from the kitsch of Mickey being on a farm, or all those elements. It had to speak truthfully, and that was Marceline for Walt. So that's a bit more esoteric in terms of a parallel, but I think it's true.
I do too. And people forget, of course, because they tend not to watch the black and white early cartoons. They don't necessarily see those, so they don't see all the barnyard antics, and they see the more polished later, which of course are great as well. But that's such a great point, Peter. That's where it all came from. Yeah. And I don't know that I've heard anybody express it quite the way you do, but it's true. What followed Oswald had to work. It had to. That would have been the end. And in typical Walt fashion, he set out to create a great animated character, and ended up creating the greatest in the world, and still is the greatest star. So when he focused his laser-like attention and creativity and everything, that's what seemed to happen. It's very interesting. I always think of Walt's wife, Lillian. She would say she loved Mickey so much because there was so much of Walt in him. It wasn't just that Walt did his voice.
Yeah.
It was a part of his personality. So it's all kind of thrilling. And of course, we can look at, which is our point today, we can look at Marceline and see the roots.
Yeah. And the authenticity, you could do it today. I mean, you can pick any celebrity that you want, and you can always hope that that celebrity or that entertainer, that singer, the dancer, the actor is who you think you want him to be.
Right, right.
So, I used to watch in Canada. We lived a couple hours north of Toronto. We got 3 channels. One of them on Sunday got The Wonderful World of Disney. The only time I would watch The Wonderful World of Disney is if Walt was bringing us behind the scenes on something, showing us something special. The films, that's fine. It just didn't speak to me like Walt spoke to me as a person, bringing me through those pieces. So, yeah, it's
That's fascinating.
It's unbelievable to me that he made so many mistakes early on, but the just the number of home runs that he hit, it's staggering to me.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. And as he said himself, mistakes are good, if you learn from them, and he certainly did. Everything negative that happened was actually a step up for him.
It's fascinating to me that he documented so much of his life. I mean, even in the times when things were not going extremely well, he knew that there was value in making sure that he documented that point in his life. And that's, you could just say it's sheer arrogance, but it's also this incredible strength of character, knowing that there would be tremendous value in knowing the road that got him to his final destination. I got the best job in the world, Jim.
Well, that leads me to my next question. So this is a very natural segue. I did want to know, you mentioned your fascination with Walt Disney, and that's who you wanted to see. It's not everybody that can say that. I think most people that know and love Walt Disney, the man, started with the films or started with the parks and then said, well, who is Walt Disney? Who's the person behind this? And then they find that out. So how did you become first interested in Walt?
Would have been watching him on a Sunday, because that those were still obviously reruns, but those were the days when Walt would still sit on his desk and introduce what he was about to share with everybody. And it was the pieces about Disneyland or behind the scenes or even the making of a film that really just struck me. And maybe it was just being naive and not understanding show business and how an actual physical production was made. So as you said, it could have been anyone. It could have been Louis B. Mayer. It could have been Samuel Goldwyn doing that, and I probably would have fallen in love with them as well. But that accessibility that Walt used to his tremendous advantage in embracing television so early on in its infancy just catapulted him into the top of everyone, in front of everyone's mind, I think, in terms of a creator in magical Hollywood. So that's the beginning. I mean, I remember going to Disneyland. Now, I guess it was Disney World was my very first visit, and I couldn't believe I was going. Like, I just couldn't believe I was going, and I had a great time. And I still go to the parks. It's my favorite thing to do. I'm a proud DVC member, and all the things that you can possibly give money to Disney for, I have done in the past. So, but it not a moment goes by. Like, I can go to the park now and very, very happily sit on Main Street on a bench, and I could be there for an hour, and I could visit the park and not go on the ride and be very, very entertained. In Disneyland, that all goes back. Not all goes back. I mean, that's silly to say it all goes back, but so much of it goes back to Walt. Obviously, he had a lot of incredibly talented people who are helping him create that illusion and that dream. But that's that guiding force, the hand on the rudder for that was Walt for sure. And for someone who to physically create things like new entertainment divisions, like theme parks, I just can't say enough.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on everything you said. I'm with you that you said earlier. You're sure I have a favorite part of Disneyland. It is Main Street USA, and I'm the same way. I can linger there all. I could just go there and be happy.
Yep.
I don't have to do anything else. There's other parts of the park I like too, obviously, and I like anything I experience, but it's Main Street for me, and that's the reason. Again, you can feel Walt's presence there and his influence, and then think about that. And it does go back to this whole idea that he was a unique creator. The people that stayed with Walt for 30 years, the people or maybe were there briefer but appreciated him, they got that it was not an arrogance or an ego thing, that everything was Walt Disney Presents, and his was the name that people remembered. Never mind the hundreds of people that actually did most of what you see on the screen or at a park, because none of it would have existed without Walt Disney. And he was so hands-on. He was not a figurehead like so many of the moguls were. He was so hands-on. So I think the people that got that appreciated that and knew what it was all about. People like Milt Kahl, say, who, had a tremendous self-regard and a tremendous ego, justified by their own talent. But he did not mind working in, as it were, Walt's shadow. Where else was he going to go? He knew that. He knew that it was the best. He was an animator, and they were doing the best animation in the world. Where else would he go? So that obviously is a subject we could talk about for not hours, but days. So anyhow, a fascinating personality, and it started with Marceline.
I think a lot of people who are tremendously successful, they're always trying to find that root or that core of where that magic started. And we talk about
it's true,
the starting point of a lot of things. But for Walt, in my presentation, I talk about people that a lot of people don't know anymore, which is funny to me. But I talk about Jack Benny growing up in Waukegan. And I listen to this day on Sirius XM. I listen to the old radio shows.
Yeah, me too.
Jack Benny is my favorite.
Me too.
There is not there. I'm sure there are some shows, but almost every show he talked about Waukegan and how important Waukegan was to him. So I went to Waukegan as a Jack Benny fan to see how they celebrated Jack Benny, and then I talk about Bob Hope and how everyone thinks of him as America's comedian, and he bought the Cleveland Indians, so he's so synonymous with the city of Cleveland. But of course, he didn't move to America till he was 6 or 7 from London,
from
and people
England.
were like,
Yes,
"What?
Yes."
America's most well-known comedian was not American."
Right.
And so we always talk about place, having a place to celebrate. And we wouldn't be celebrating Walt and Marceline if Walt wasn't the one who told the world that that's where it needed to be celebrated.
Yeah.
So it's not fictional. It's not George Washington slept here. It's I have literally too many hours of Walt waxing poetically about his time in Marceline to think anything but that was one of the most impactful moments in his life, living in Marceline.
Yeah, that's what he said, and it's backed up by. It's not just something he said. It's not just some fake nostalgia. It's completely real and authentic.
Absolutely.
And again, one way he communicated that is Main Street USA. So, and it's wonderful you've made it possible for people to experience that in Marceline itself. So having said that, what are your hopes and dreams for the Walt Disney Hometown Museum for for the future?
Well, we don't have enough time to discuss all my hopes and dreams, Jim. Um, we'll have to do another multi-part episode on
Yes.
Peter's dreams. But what I really want to do is I want to continue to expand our story. I want to encourage the thing that I think has been really important as a museum is we've made a commitment every year to tell new stories in our museum. So there was a moment in time that if you came to our museum, you could come back 5 years later and nothing will have changed. I can honestly say over the last 6 years that every year there has been a gallery change or there's been a gallery addition. A spotlight is being shone on an item that we have that not a lot of people noticed before or experienced in the same way. So change is really important to us, and I want to continue to advocate for change every year. Um, and I also want to continue to kind of strengthen our relationship with the Disney company because we've been very good friends, but I think we could be closer partners as we move forward. And Disney has a lot of things that will help us grow. And I would say that we've been, I think, pretty dedicated to telling Walt's story in the highest way. Like we're not owned by the Disney company, but I can't make a decision at the museum or be part of the group who are making decisions in the museum and not think about it from a Disney perspective. So it's the way you interact with guests. It's our name tags that kind of feel very Disney.
Yes.
So we have to be the very best of cousins, so that we feel like we're all rowing in the same direction. So I want to continue to grow with the Disney company for sure. And then I'd love to bring Walt's dreams back. He gave us a gift. He gave us Midget Autopia. It came in 1966. It made room in Disneyland for It's a Small World. So he was bringing all those rides back from the New York World's Fair, wanted to expand the walkway to It's a Small World, decided to remove Midget Autopia, not a ride that the Disney company designed. It was designed by Aero Motorworks. So I think he had less affection for it. Also because it was just for kids. And obviously he wanted you to go have fun with your kids, not watch your kids have fun. So he, instead of just getting rid of it, gave it to Marceline through Rutlaw. So that ride lasted till 1977 until the city just couldn't afford to maintain it any longer. Just last year, or I guess a few years ago now, we brought back the track. So right just adjacent to the museum, the original Midget Autopia track is being poured. We have a company right now, Acme in Chicago, who are making us Midget Autopia replica pedal cars. So for the first time since 1977, hopefully later this year, you'll be able to come to Marceline and do a lap of the track again, just like Walt wanted to be in Marceline. So it's bringing back those dreams. That farm on the outskirts of Marceline, Walt wanted to tell a story there. He wanted kids to remember where their food came from. That was kind of the starting point of the working turn of the century farm. To some degree, I would love to bring that back, that concept. Inside the house that sits there right now, the farmhouse, is Walt's 1910 home. So when it was added on for the current family who needed, modern amenities, instead of tearing that house down or just remodeling it completely, they left it intact and they built around it and built their extension. So at some point in the future, when we peel that extension back, literally inside the siding that's on there right now is the original 1910 siding. It's the white siding. The roof line of Walt's original home is within the roof line of the current. So we could go right back to 1910. And in the future, be able to walk into Walt and Roy's bedroom. And that, again, I feel so honored to be able to do that. As a Disney fan, I can't walk his or his house without touching the door frame because I know he touched that door.
Right.
I can't not touch it. I can't not. So yeah, I want to extend Walt's dream for Marceline. Understand fully now that I don't think become a member or just supporting the museum in any way possible. That money doesn't go to just paying electric bill anymore. It goes to advancing our story. So I think the sky's the limit. That the future of Marceline is going to be spun off the same dreams that I had for every guest that is a really passionate Disney fan that wants to come to Marceline. Hopefully, they take those same intimate moments back with them that I did the very first time I came here. So that's what I need to provide guests. It would be wrong for them to go home and say, that museum was okay.
Right.
Go home, say, oh my God, that museum was adorable. Like Walt would be. So I literally think Walt would be so proud of what we've done at the museum. And I don't know any better person that I would want to be proud than Walt. So that's hypothetical, but.
Right. Well, I completely agree. I agree 100%. And again, I have seen the growth. Every time I return, you're absolutely right. There's something new, there's something more. And it's all so beautifully done. So I encourage everyone who's watching this to certainly visit the Walt Disney Hometown Museum in beautiful Marceline, Missouri, if they are able to. And if they can't, they can at least go to the website. So how can people find out more about the museum just in their own homes if they're planning a trip or thinking about it or whatever?
Yeah, our website's a great starting point. So it'll give you obviously places to stay in and around the city. It'll talk about the history of Marceline, so give you a bit of a primer before you show up at the museum. So visit our museum website. Follow us on Facebook. We're pretty active in Facebook. Our social media presence has increased pretty significantly over the last few years. So
Sure has.
Passionate Disney fans, again, can go online. We have monthly giveaways for our 20th anniversary this year, where we're giving away pieces that you can only get in Marceline through our Facebook page. So I encourage you to go there. And just our online store, which is part of our museum website as well. If you're not sure how, the best way to support us is, make yourself happy by going through the online store, and picking out something that speaks to your heart. So it makes you happy, because I can tell you that when a docent is sitting at the front desk and our little system makes a little ding noise that someone's ordered something online, everybody smiles. It is funny to think about, because we've sold to all sorts of different countries, and I'm sure every state in the United States. It's kind of like, I don't know if you do this, Jim, that when my phone rings or if I get a text, instantly the very first thing I always think of is, how cool that someone is thinking to contact me right now. Like, it's such a silly thing to think, but I think about it every time my phone rings or my phone goes off. And I think about it every time our little square system goes off and dings that someone's ordered something from somewhere. It's like, hey, someone's thinking of Walt's Marceline right now. How great is that?
With your leadership and other factors, the museum continues to grow and amaze. And in many ways, I'm a biased fan of the museum, but I also like to think that I have a professional look at it as well. So I'm very, very impressed, and continue to be. It's just one of my favorite things anywhere.
That's great. I appreciate that a lot. It means a lot. When people do come, this year again for our anniversary, Disney cast members, we have just to entice people to come and experience Walt's story. They are getting a discount when they come in, and I love how proud it is. And you must feel the same way. There is something really unique and magical about that company, and it is still, even though there's all sorts of talk about how it's falling further away from the core values that Walt had. I hear that constantly. People come in and go, "Oh, what would Walt think about them buying Pixar or Star Wars?" And I'd be like, "I don't know. I know Walt was not ashamed that he was doing very well for himself, and his studio was doing very well for himself. So I think, in a weird way, he would step back and go, wow, we're doing exceptionally well as a company." So you can't get past that statement that the Disney company is an amazing thing onto its own. But I think Walt would be incredibly proud of that as well, that it has done so well. But there is something about cast members that I can almost sense they're a cast member before they tell me they're a cast member. there's that little bit of pixie dust when someone walks in, and I'm sure you experience it, where you just think, there's just something about you
Yes.
that makes me happy.
Yes. Yes, the ones that are really part of that heritage. I mean, in any large group of people, you're always going to have somebody that, they're just doing it because it's a job and they took that job. But there's those people that are doing because it's a passion and
Yeah,
something
absolutely.
something that comes from their heart.
Yeah.
So again, I'd like to encourage everyone to, at the very least, go to the museum's website and find out more. Hopefully that can result in an actual visit to beautiful Marceline, Missouri, one of my favorite places. And the Walt Disney Hometown Museum is a great celebration of that community and what it was to Walt Disney and what Walt Disney is to it. So, Peter, I'd like to thank you so much for being here for this fascinating talk and so many insights that I've not thought about before. So it's the next best thing to being at the Walt Disney Hometown Museum, just talking to you across the miles.
I appreciate it. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your friendship, and for all the support that we get from you. It really, obviously, truly means a lot. So it's, I'm excited that potentially you're going to help us tell stories in the museum itself. So I love that bond. So I appreciate it.
Me too. It's a great honor, and I thank you for it. So thanks again for being here in this latest episode of VIP Visits. I hope everyone will be with us next time for another visit with another VIP. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.